Julia Hartley-Brewer came ready with the usual warnings about migration. But James Matthewson wasn't letting the argument go unchallenged. He turns the debate straight back onto years of government failure and eventually calls her bluff live on air. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Let's watch.
This is about class. This is basically if you've worked hard, or you're lucky, you've been brought up in a nicer area, you're probably less likely to have the cheap accommodation, the HMOs, the flats available, the high streets where there are places where these people are being put. You've not had to bear the full brunt of it. And he's basically saying we all need to share the burden. We need to accept. Why interesting is the word accept? Accept. People in working class areas haven't accepted. They've had it imposed on them. Even often when their local councils have opposed it. I mean, some councils want to sort of have more because they think for some reason this is a good thing for their local communities. But most councils have opposed it, and yet they've had them anyway. I thought this was a Prime Minister who cared about devolution and bringing power back to local people and local councils, but apparently not.
Well, it is an interesting kind of situation because you're right. You know, those working class communities that are economically disadvantaged, post-industrial communities a lot of the time, have been the areas where the Home Office has been able to secure available properties, but also relatively cheap properties, which is where before the situation of the hotels, which everyone seems to have been outraged about, was before where asylum seekers were being temporarily
but they weren't temporarily housed. I mean, my local hotel near the top of my road is a 10-minute walk away, and I live in a nice area. That hotel has been used for 4 years. It's not temporary.
Yeah, but not for the same people. The issue is, Julia,
how do you know?
The issue we've talked about.
Where do you think they've gone?
How do you know? How do you know?
How do you know? 4 years isn't temporary. How do you know that the same people aren't in there still?
Because the issue is that those people need to have their claims assessed. And if it's taken that long to assess their claims, that's the problem. But their claims get assessed. Now, they don't want to stay in the shabby, rundown, former nice hotel, as you've said,
it's not shabby.
Used to be, right? But no, seriously.
I've put family members up there.
It's about cost of income. You know, the owners of these places are only taking asylum contracts because they cannot fill their rooms otherwise. Well, so it's those rooms that are the problem. Those accommodations are the problem. Now, people don't like those hotels. They liked even less the houses that people were put in. And that's the issue, is that where do you...
but the government, the Tory government and then the Labour government saying... We're moving people out of the hotels because basically they're a focus for people's anger. Move them into local bedsits. People won't know where they are. In fact, that's not the solution. Move them into local army barracks. Well, that's not the solution if they can still just wander into the local village. Can I come back to something you said earlier? Because you said you're pro-migration. What do you mean by I'm pro-migration? Because we are talking about people illegally entering the country on rubber dinghies, sometimes 49 foot long, as we saw over the weekend.
Now, you see, I'm somebody who believes in our responsibility as a nation. So when it comes to asylum, we have, people have the right to claim asylum. Now, for a fact, because we've talked about this many times, my issue comes when that assessment needs to be done, how quickly the assessment is done. We had 15 years of Tory austerity that stripped the Home Office of its resources. So it wasn't even able to do its basic functions. That's the problem. Now, I've got a mate whose girlfriend, right, from South America, he's Northern Irish, trying to get all of their visa paperwork and all the rest. It's been 2.5 years now, Julia. That's ridiculous. We are failing as a nation because of that. And this is an issue that stems from that. My issue is not with the small boats. My issue is not with those arrivals. I like what Andy Burnham says about opening more safe routes because I would like people not to drown in the channel. But at the end of the day, I believe that people have the fundamental right, which is an international human right, to claim asylum. It is our responsibility as a nation to deal with the paperwork.
Here's the thing. Do they have, you can argue this, most of these people are economic migrants rather than claiming asylum. They've gone through numerous safe countries. If they are fleeing a country that is war-torn, the vast majority of their fellow countrymen and women are living in the countries nearby. I don't know why these people are suddenly so much more deserving of asylum in Britain than in, say, Sudan or Mauritania or wherever. It seems to me to be people have a right. A lot of those laws, they were set up at a very, very, very different time. I don't believe that people do have a right to just pick and choose. Oh, I think this is where I'll live now. I think I'm just going to live. I'm going to move to the other side of the world and I'm just going to want to live here because I live in a basket case country. I don't think that we have a duty to the rest of the world to take in every single person who's got a bad life.
I'm afraid it's only going to get worse, Julia. So we need to seriously ask ourselves, what do we want?
And this is where the interview really heats up. After James challenges the argument over the asylum backlog, he turns his attention directly to the fear-driven rhetoric surrounding migration. Julia pushes back hard, but then she sets up what looks like a clever challenge, only for James to turn it straight back on her. Watch what happens next.
You are not reporting on the grooming gangs that are white. You are not reporting on those people, right? If you were, then I would say, yes, I understand this.
We
but
report
it's not.
on major
It is
crimes.
not-
We
no, it
report
is
on
not
stories.
with the agenda.
James,
know that you are spreading
it's
the
not an agenda.
that is
The
anti-migrant.
point is, we already have enough of our own wrong-uns who should be dealt
It's a
with far
great line,
more
Julia.
quickly
It's
and
a great-
sternly. However, I don't think the solution to having a bunch of murderers and rapists and paedophiles in Britain is, let's import some more.
It's a great line, Julia, but the majority of the people who come here are not rapists and pedophiles.
I didn't say they
That's
were.
the reality.
I didn't say
That's
they
the
were.
reality.
I would
Yes,
never
but
have
your
claimed that they
point
were.
is,
I
you're saying some of the
categorically stated previously on this show,
I-
the majority of people,
Can I
they're
finish?
committing a crime by coming to our country, but there
not
are
a
too
crime.
many. You listen, the stats are very, very clear. And the countries that publish the stats, whether it's Germany, whether it's France, whether it's Austria, whether it's Italy, whether it's Denmark, whether it's Sweden, and in Britain we're starting to see it. The criminality rate from different nationalities is starkly different. It is
That's
true.
inherently
Per capita,
xenophobic.
the criminality rate, even allowing for the fact they are younger men, largely they're men, and largely they're younger, and therefore more likely to commit crime than any other demographic. Their criminality rate of certain countries, people from certain countries, is off the scale higher than from other countries.
This belief is rooted
It's not a
in an
belief,
idea.
it's fact.
This belief of yours is rooted in an idea, Julia, that Britain is somehow a land of milk and honey and good people, and we're all the best.
No.
And people out there, the others in other countries, are scary and savages and barbaric.
Absolute
It is not
nonsense. I'm not
the
claiming that at
reality.
all.
Our country is made up of migrants, of immigrants from all over the world in every
Our country is
aspect of our
largely made up of
public
people
life.
whose families have lived here
And yet we
for
are seeing
hundreds
a
of
rise-
thousands of years.
We are seeing a rise of ethno-nationalism.
Yeah.
We're seeing a rise of racism. We're
Yeah.
seeing a rise of intolerance and xenophobia, Julia. And it comes back to the fact that you are scaring your listeners every day.
It's all my
with this
fault
idea,
because people
this
have noticed
idea.
there's a problem.
Not just your
We're not
fault,
allowed to
Julia, don't
notice
worry.
facts. Can't
Plenty
notice
of other
facts.
people.
James, if you're under the illusion that the risk of somebody coming from a country where they have high levels of criminality, very, very little concern for the rights of children or women or gay people,
What are you
that
talking
those
about?
people
That's
are not a bigger threat to people in this country than people coming from countries which do have similar values to us, I think you're living in cloud cuckoo land.
Well, let me say, as the feminist and lefty woke whatever amongst us, Julia, let me tell you that
You're a feminist?
I'm very much concerned.
Oh, by the way,
about
all in
those
favour of men who
about-
claim they're women in women's toilets, right?
and
Feminists.
about those values. Yeah, because I believe trans women are women, Julia. There's a difference between us. Yeah. So
Because you believe
women-
in fairy
yeah.
tales.
No, because gender's a social construct and women are women. You're talking about sex, which is biological. It's completely different.
talking about
we're not
women.
let's not open that can of worms. Let's finish this one first,
Well,
right?
we're gonna have
What
to
I would
finish
say
'cause-
to you-
yeah.
What I would say to you just briefly before we finish, right, is that it comes down to our basic values. Are we shirkers? Do we shirk our responsibilities in this country? No, we
don't have any responsibility. We don't have a responsibility to the rest of the world.
If somebody arrives on your doorstep and they claim they need help, you assess that claim, and if they need
Right.
it, they need it. If they
James,
don't, they
can I
don't.
ask, can we maybe give out your personal address to any asylum seeker and you just take them in with your personal responsibility?
I will if you will. I will
Oh,
if you will.
no,
Julia.
I won't.
So, there you have it. That final exchange really captured the divide. James challenged the fear surrounding migration and argued that the real failure lies in how the system has been managed, while Julia insisted the risks justify her concerns. And when she challenged him to personally take responsibility, his response, "I will if you will," turned the question straight back on her. What did you make of the debate? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest political coverage. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.